This is a CALPADS error resolution video. We will be reviewing the SCSE/SCSC0139 error, missing course section record. As always, the first step when troubleshooting any error in CALPADS is to consult the CALPADS error list. We have before you a screenshot of the error list from the Excel version found on the system documentation page. Of course, you can always access the error list in the form of a troubleshooting guide in the CALPADS user manual. So from left to right, the first column is the error number, and you can see the name SCSE0139E1. So let's break this down. The SCSE stands for Student Course Section Enrollment, right? That's the file that you would submit for Fall 2. You will also see this error in the form of SCSC, Student Course Completion. That's the error in the form of End of Year 1. So that's something to remember, right? SCSE, SCSE, it's the same thing, 0139. And then we have the prefix, right? Now, the suffix would be the E1, that means End of Year 1, or you may see F2, that would be Fall 2. So that's what would distinguish this error. The resolution, the triggers are the same in either submission. The second column, you see the error name, missing course section record. That's just the name. The error description, now, this is where you can start to get an understanding of what the problem is. Student course section record must have a corresponding course section record. Right? So you look at that description, it tells you the student course section record must have a corresponding course section record. That's a little bit more detail than just missing course section record. The severity is fatal. It's a CDD, so you'll see it after file submission, as well as if it goes unresolved, you will see it on the certification status as well. The fields validated are the school of course delivery, the academic year ID, the local course ID, the course section ID, and the academic term code, right? And so this is a little bit deceiving because you see it identifies file type 10, which is the student course section file, but it's a comparison, right? You're going to be looking at the course and the student course section. So you have to look at these 5 fields in both files to identify the discrepancy and the source of your error. And so moving on to the suggested resolution, the column on the far right, this is where you're going to get guidance, right? For general scenarios, common problems. Sometimes you have to take the fields of validation, the error description, suggested resolution, and then what you already know about CALPADS to solve your errors or create a resolution for yourself. In the suggested resolution, it says, if the local course ID and the course section ID are correctly populated in the submission, ensure the CALPADS ODS has a course section record for the submitted course ID and course section ID. So it's telling you to make sure that you check the local course ID and the course section ID in your submission. That would be the student course section file, whether it's enrollment or completion, and you're going to compare that to the course section record and make sure that the course ID and the local course ID and the course section ID are corresponding or match. The second suggested resolution, number 2, says, if the local course ID and the course section ID are incorrectly populated in submission, again, if you find that the student course section file that you're submitting or have submitted has incorrect information in the local course ID or course section ID, remove that record, change it, and then submit it again to ensure that it's correctly populated. And you would identify if that information is incorrect by comparing it to the course section record again. And so at the very bottom, you see one last note. This error will only trigger where the student course section completion academic year is the same as the current academic year. So it does not trigger on historical data, only in the current year submission. So in addition to the CALPADS error list, other documentation is sometimes helpful when troubleshooting errors. Here we have an excerpt from the CALPADS data guide from the student course enrollment, student course completion section. And in this excerpt, you can see that we've highlighted the course section ID. I want you to focus on the number. At the top, you see CRSC 9.14, and just below that, you see SCSE 10.14. So the number identifies the file type. File type 9 is the course file. File type 10 is the student course file. We're, again, comparing the course section ID in the two different files to identify the discrepancy. And so the CALPADS data guide is telling you the purpose, but also indicating the linkage between the two. So on the far right column under the comments, you see more information. And the same comment is in both file type sections. This is a required field in both the student course section enrollment and the student course completion record. So it's telling you that this course section ID from a course is going to be required in the student course completion record, right? And so there's other information that's not necessarily pertinent to this error. So we'll just move along. And then another resource for us is always being up to date with the CALPADS flashes, right? The CALPADS update flash messages tell us when there may be known issues, current problems, or if an error is plaguing many of us out there in the field, the CD will address it and give us guidance. And so that's what we have here. This was from Fall 2, CALPADS Update Flash 247. And what I want to focus on is down here at the bottom, where it's talking about, please note that the majority of these errors are valid. So at this current time and end of year, all of the errors are valid. There are no known issues associated with this error. And then there's guidance that we highlighted, all right? Number one, if the local course ID and the course section ID are correctly populated in the submission, again, that's the student course completion file, ensure that the ODS, that's CALPADS, has a course section record submitted with the exact same course ID and course section ID. That's the comparison we have to do to troubleshoot. Number two, if the local course ID and the course section ID are incorrectly populated in the submission, remove it or change it so that the correct value is submitted to CALPADS. That correct value will be corresponding to existing course section records, right? And then it says review Fall 2 reports. That's not pertinent for end of year, but you could you review your end of year reports if you're in the end of year submission to ensure that the student course enrollment has been accurately reported, right? And so in addition to the error list, there's always additional documentation that you can research when troubleshooting any error. And so, you know, you're watching this video, you're being independent, you want to resolve the error. Perhaps it was recommended to you by support, whatever the case may be. You know, we're watching this video and we're going to try to shortcut your troubleshooting. So common causes for the student course section completion 0139 error: a mismatch of attributes, those fields of validation between the student course file and the course file, okay? One of those fields of validation could be incorrect. There's 5 fields of validation, right? There could be a missing course file, right? We just are missing the course record for whatever reason. Maybe it was populated, we enrolled the students, and then that course record was deleted. Perhaps it was removed through, you know, a transaction, being that these files are full replacement. Maybe it was replaced and not populated again. It could be an erroneous student course section submission. Maybe the data is just a typo or one, you know, whatever it is, the student course completion is erroneous. And then this error historically has triggered mostly when files were submitted out of sequence. And now that the relationships due to validations have changed a bit between your file submission, just remember that you will see this error if you submit your student course completion records or student course enrollment records prior to your course records. And it will exist until you post those corresponding course records. So that's just something to keep in mind, the common causes for the SCSE0139 error. Now we are ready for a demonstration. All right, so here we are on the certification detail screen. Opened up our fatal error summary and we clicked show. Although it says there's one error, our CDDs need to refresh, because when I look at the SCSC0139, we have several different errors. So we'll go through a few of those in a moment. But like with any error, we always say, find your error list And so whenever you click the error name in CALPADS under the message ID, it will open up the page, the exact page where you can find the error. If you're ever in the user manual, you can navigate by going help, troubleshooting, and then finding your error. This would be found under end of year 1. And just like the Excel format, you have your fields validated, suggested resolution, and an error description. Hopefully, after this video posts, it will be down here in additional information, possibly notes. Okay, with that being said, let's focus on our fields of validation. School of course delivery, academic year ID, local course ID, course section ID, academic term code, okay? So that's the fields we're going to look for when we're troubleshooting these errors. So I see that we have different students all in the same class. And so I know there's a problem here. So, I can right click this link, open in a new tab. I've already done that. Here's the student. We scroll down and we're looking at student course section. So we're on the student detail screen and we're looking at the student course section for this student here. Okay. So let's look at our fields of validation. School of course delivery, academic year ID. School of course delivery, CSCS Training Berkeley Unified, that's the school. Academic year ID is here, 22-23. Local course ID, course section ID, academic term code. Local course ID, course section ID, academic term code. So these are the fields I need to match in the course section, okay? Now, I'll tell you, you have a valid SCSE0139 when you're missing the state course code and the course name, the class ID. See these 3 fields missing? That would come from the course record if it was in CALPADS. These matching fields or these fields of validation would tie this student course record to a course. Because these fields are missing, it's a clear indication to me immediately that I have a valid SCSE0139 and I'm not waiting on a snapshot or this is a bug, right? This looks valid because I'm missing information that would be present. Okay, so I've looked at the submission. Now we have to find the course, right? And we're looking at a course in CALPADS. So you want to preserve this screen. You might be going back and forth, maybe opening multiple windows. So we go to online maintenance, course data. If you right click again, you can open in a new window or a new tab. Just to speed up the video, I've already done that, I believe. All right, so here we are. Here's the course data screen. Again, just go to course data, brings you to course data screen. Course completion, these are the only records I'm looking for. And my school of course delivery, CSCS Training Berkeley Unified. If I look at the student record, school of course delivery, CSCS Training Berkeley Unified. So everything's in alignment and I can make my comparisons. However, instantly I have nothing to compare. I've already filtered this. I realize that I have no course records submitted. And so, we've refiltered it and you can see there's nothing here. No items to display. So at this point, I'm baffled. I don't know what happened to my course data. And one good place to look, if you find this, is the view submission. And so again, we have the file submission page here. Again, here's our LEA, and all the files submitted for our LEA are present. And I can see I have a student course section file, a CRSE file type, but it was a single online transaction, a student course section completion file. So it would appear to me that I've never submitted my course file. And so in this instance, this is out of sequence reporting, right? You want to report the CRSC records first and then enroll your students as course completers with the SCSC, or you want to show their completion with the SCSE. I missed a step. This is easy to resolve, right? You just go to File Upload and upload that submit missing file. So again, preserve this tab, File Upload. Let's find the file, CRSE for the district, open, upload. And so theoretically, that's all we need to resolve that example of a SCSE 0139 error. So the file's being processed. If it posts, I would expect the missing courses to resolve that error. Looking at the certification detail screen, of course, we would need a new revision for that to be reflected. This is the test environment, so perhaps by the end of this video, we'll have a new revision. Let's move on to the next set of records that are triggering the SCSE 0139 E1 error. So let's look at this student. I'm gonna right click, open a new tab, and using the SSID will help me find the student course section or the student course completion record, right? And I always want to make sure that I compare the student course section record to the course section record with this particular type of error. Okay, so again, I can see that there's fields missing. So it definitely looks like a valid error to me. And so we have to begin our troubleshooting process by looking at the fields of validation again. We just looked at the error list, and we've identified that the academic year ID, the school of course delivery, the local course ID, the academic term, and the course section ID are our fields of validation. So I'm going to look at CSIS Training Berkeley High, because that's the school of course delivery, CSIS Training Berkeley High, at course data. So here's the course data, changing the school, looking at the school of course delivery. Okay, apply filters. And so we have just the courses for our high school. And either I'm going to use the course section ID or the local course ID to find the course quickly. So we're looking here, we have a 9 ENG and a 09 ENG, right? Either or, local course ID, course section ID. I'm on the course data screen, same school. I don't see it on the first page. Okay, here are our candidates. And sometimes it's good to filter alphabetically or numerically, depending on how your course is set up, and you can do that easily, right? See the arrow go down. Now the arrow's up. And that way we can ensure that all our courses that are, similar with the course section ID or have a similar naming convention, which is probably the same subject matter, will be grouped together, right? We don't want to miss any. So we have 2 English 9 courses here. All right. So let's identify the problem. So we're going to look at the academic year ID. We know we're matching the local course ID and the course section. So I have 09 ENG, ENG 09, both of these. The academic year is 22-23. So the local course ID and the course section ID look fine, right? I don't know what the problem could be. So you go back to your fields of validation, check, 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 check. One more field, academic term code. So let's check the academic term code. On my student course section record, it's full year. And the courses that I offer, I have a semester 1 and semester 2. So this is where you have to do some analysis, right? The data doesn't correspond, and I don't know if one of these courses should be full year. It's logical that if I have a S1 and a S2, that neither is full year, right? This makes sense. They should go together. Perhaps there's the third course missing that's a full year course. Perhaps I don't offer a full year course and my student course completion record is wrong, right? Perhaps this record is wrong. And so, you have to resolve this. And so, just for the sake of demonstration, let's say this record is wrong, right? How do you get rid of it? There's no edit button here. So this is what we would describe as an orphan record. It has no parent record, therefore is not accessible in the CALPADS ODS via online maintenance. Other files like your student incidents have parent records, and the course definitely does. When this is the case, to remove this record, you're going to have to submit a deletion file, right? And you can do that one of several ways. Hopefully, you can extract that file from your student information system, or you can request an extract from CALPADS. You go to your extracts, you want an ODS extract, and you want your student course completion records. If it's a single school, you can filter for just the school. It's the high school, right? Or you can look for that specific record, however you want, right? This was selecting all schools. So let's make this as easy as possible for myself. This record is at the high school. So on my extract, I would look for just the high school and I'd request the file. Give it a few minutes, you go back, retrieve it. You can import it into an Excel template using the CALPADS user manual. So after you have your Excel or your CSV extract, you go to resources, batch file templates, find the file template that matches your file type. So that's going to be the student course section file. And you're going to follow import instructions. Now, we have a couple of different import instructions. Tips when creating batch files, converting extract files to an Excel format. So here's a quick step-by-step. Also on the CSIS YouTube channel. So here we are on the CSIS YouTube training channel under playlists. You come down, troubleshooting tips. And if you watch these 3 videos, you'll be able to take any extract in CALPADS, import it into a template, and convert your data so that you can upload it and make changes. There's several different steps. So we have 3 different videos. If you watch all 3, you should be able to do it independently of any assistance, but there is always the service desk. So going back to our error, we'll find a file, student enrolled at the district. Here's the file that I submitted. All 4 of these records are triggering the SCSE English. So here's what the record would look like in the file. And you can see we have the academic year is incorrect. I'm going to update the academic year so that it matches the course data. And let's say it was S1 or S2. You identify what record is missing. I'll say S2. And I'm going to submit this record. First, I'm going to delete the erroneous one and then submit the correct one. So if I find the record that was submitted, transaction type D, and I will be able to delete the record. Let's go to file upload. two separate transactions. I'm going to first delete. Here it is. Upload. While it's processing, I find the file. I make the correction. You make the correction in your student information system. Extract a new file from your student information system with the corrected information. And after the record is deleted, you can submit that new submission and resolve the SCSE0139 error. So just to simulate that, we'll go back to upload another file. Remember, we submitted a file to delete. Now we are correcting the academic year. And again, it may take a revision. Honestly, it may take a couple revisions, maybe 3 or 4 revisions. But if you're confident that you've corrected the data, just submit the record and wait. Let a revision or 2 pass, and the error will be resolved. Okay, so, we have where we had an academic year. One of the fields of validation was wrong. Another scenario we just reviewed was the file was submitted out of sequence. So let's look at another one of these, a different scenario. So we have this student, and just to keep track of things, I'm gonna right click, open a new tab. And again, I preserve that so I can go through these records triggering errors if I'd like. I see the student's record, student course section. So we can see here that we have a couple of records. So let's make sure that we're looking at the right one. Course section ID, local course ID, 100 COM AG is the local course ID, AG COM is the course section ID. We're looking at the student's record. We have 2. So the difference is S1 and S2. Okay, so that's fine. I don't immediately see a problem here. All right, so we are at CSIS Training Berkeley High. This is a high school student. The records associated with that as the school is course delivery. So I have that here filtered, no problem. Again, we can filter the course section ID. And our ag com courses are here. And you see the advantage of filtering, it grouped them all together. And because they had the similar course section ID and local course ID, it will help us. So our commercial ag course is local course ID is 100 COM ag. Course section ID is COM ag. So we have this one, S1, right? High school. We have this other, AgCom, AG2. What is it, AG2? Class ID, AG2, S1, intermediate. Huh, wait a minute. Ah, do you see the problem? So we have an AgCom, S1, 100 COM ag, and CSIS Berkeley High. So I'm looking at the fields of validation here, right? I have my course section ID. My course section ID is here. My academic term code. My course section ID. My school of course delivery. Right? So I'm looking at them. And when I come to the student's record, I see I have an S2. So I found this course, but I cannot find my S2. Course section ID, AdCom, academic term code, local course ID, school of course delivery, and academic year. And when I'm looking and making my comparison, I don't have an S2 for this AgCom course with 100. That record seems to be missing. And I filtered so I can see all of them real quickly, right? I don't see it. And you can scan the rest of your courses. It's missing. And so, again, because I know that course is missing, I verify that visually here. And when I look at the student's record, there's no data missing. To me, having some experience, this is an indication that I've deleted the course. Perhaps it was replaced. It was a full replacement mishap on my part. Maybe I accidentally deleted the course using online maintenance, but I clearly can see that the course is missing. Yet I have what is a complete record here, right? And so that would suggest to me that the course was deleted and I just need to create the course. I can create it online and the records will associate, or I can submit a file with that course, include it with the rest of my courses, because of course this is a full replacement. So here we are, through the magic of editing. Thank you, Marshall. And time, we can see that one of our SCSE0139 errors after a F5 refresh has nothing here, right? And so if you are kind of new to CALPADS, we're waiting on the CDDs to update, right? We have revisions processing, but the CDDs have their own time. But the fact that there's no details would indicate to me that this is a record that will be resolved. I just need either the revision or the CDDs to catch up. And one of the things we can do to verify this is click Tab. And student course section. And so this error was resolved because the delete went through, right? We deleted the record and we're replacing it. So it's not completely resolved, but we just wanted to show you that typically when you've made changes and the error is going to be resolved, you'll see the data missing. Now, we did the delete and then we post it. So that posting hasn't registered yet, and perhaps new errors will trigger. Perhaps I'll recreate the error I had, but this was just a good opportunity to show you what it looks like in the certification screen when CALPADS is in the process of thinking, right? We can see there are still existing errors, but this one in particular has no data, although it's called out, right? There's still a listing of it. So we just wanted to point that out. That would be a third rendition, a third version, a third scenario of the SCSE0139 error. Hopefully this is of some use to you and helps you resolve these errors. Maybe you can go look at your errors, try to identify one of the scenarios that we discussed. And of course, if you need any further assistance, let us know, submit a support request.